So we've covered a number of acquisition controversies and consumption controversies. Now we're going to look at disposal controversies, a couple of them. Consumers have many options for disposing of still functioning products. They can gift them, donate, trade, sell, they can toss them. Anyone who's been to a United States landfill will never get the image out of their mind. The popularity of the tossing option is a result of the laziness and waste mentality that can come with being the wealthiest country of all. The U.S. gets the trophy for the sheer amount of waste. Some other countries have built far more incentive into their systems. Let's take Germany, for example. Germany strictly limits the amount of waste that anyone can send to a landfill. Thus, consumers have developed the habits of gifting, donating, trading, selling, recycling as many items as possible. The government gives incentives like tax breaks in Germany to companies which create venues through which consumers can actually gift and donate and trade or sell on consignment. So those types of companies that create those venues, the government gives incentives like tax breaks. Likewise, this discourages wasteful packaging because German companies have difficulty selling products with wasteful containers, such as individually wrapped items, which really proliferate in the United States. In the same way, corporations have choices of how to dispose of their hazardous waste and other harmful byproduct emissions. However, capitalistic success is measured by bottom-line profits, not environmental choices or outcomes. In fact, all the ethical concerns covered in this lecture and accompanying readings that you've done really emphasize the need for regulations and laws for consumer protections instead of relying on corporations to self-police. The subprime mortgage meltdown and salmonella outbreaks are just a couple of examples that emphasize why government regulation is needed for consumer protections. The U.S. government has established many federal agencies to oversee consumer-related activities. Examples of the most prominent, there are many, but I want you to know these four. Okay, Department of Agriculture, DOA, the FTC, stands for the Federal Trade Commission, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, and SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. However, their powers are really limited. For instance, although the Federal Trade Commission is actually charged with stopping false or misleading ads and has developed some guidelines over what constitutes these, it's really apparent that such ads continue to exist. The FTC can, and at times, does require companies to run corrective advertising. However, this power has been used few times compared to the proliferation of deceptive and misleading ads that we see out there. There are also many smaller, more specialized groups and agencies that exist here in the United States, again with limited power, such as the Children's Advertising Review Unit and the Environmental Protection Agency, etc. Still, the power of these organizations, what they do have, is certainly important. For instance, in December of 2014, in response to the obesity epidemic in the United States, the FDA announced a sweeping rule that will require calorie counts on menus for fast food, menus for alcoholic drinks, and posted on vending machines for food items, and even on concession signs for movie popcorn. Now, one of the most interesting and prominent public figures in consumer advocacy is Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren, W-A-R-R-E-N. When she was a Harvard University professor of law, she began studying bankruptcy, truly expecting to discover the main cause to be unwise consumer decisions. Instead, behind most bankruptcies, she found something that really affected her. She found events that were far beyond any consumer's control, such as medical expenses associated with a serious illness, job losses, and marital crises. In addition, she found that healthcare, housing, and education prices have been for decades and still are, increasing far above inflation rates. She began publishing a proliferation of consumer advocacy studies and articles in academic journals and in the mainstream press. Following the financial crisis of 2008, she advocated for a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which was then voted into existence under the Obama administration. When Republicans objected to her appointment as head of this agency, she decided to start working from the inside of the legislative body by running for and winning a Senate seat, where she now fights for consumer rights. So 3 tips just to get you started here, derived from this lecture material. Tip number 1, never base a buying decision on good or bad ingredients of a product without reading what first? The serving size, right? Tip number 2, remember that marketers often camouflage required information they don't want you to read by using that sans serif font and a thick line frame around it, right? So study this font. Look it up on Google, study it, and the example, the thick line frame, and then use them as triggers. Each time you see this combination, before you make a purchase decision, stop and evaluate just what it is that the seller did not want you to read. Tip number 3, remember that frontal lobes are not fully developed until about the age of 24. So if you have kids someday, or someone that you're a father or mother figure to, here's a way that you can actually help them to establish credit, but at the same time teach them responsible use of a credit card. When you think that this child is ready, perhaps when they begin college, co-sign for his or her first credit card with a very limited maximum. So something you can afford to lose, right? So maybe it'll be 500 or maybe 1,000. Okay? Take it away. If they are never delinquent, of course, you want to pay it off. Your name's on that, but take it away. But teach more than a lack of delinquency. If they prove that they have the impulse control to live within their means and to pay it off in full each month, then at the end of each year, arrange to have the maximum doubled. And of course, you're helping them build the credit with that building maximum. So now you have a good overview of ethics on the part of corporations, marketers, and consumers from this lecture and your readings. But this is just your foundation, just the beginning. We will continue to run into more ethical controversies throughout the remainder of this course. And here's your fun guerrilla marketing example. And this concludes our lecture on ethics.